Hello, welcome to Lazada Insider, featuring knowledge that makes a difference. We share trusted insights, forward-looking perspectives, and exclusive expert interviews to keep you ahead of the curve.
Welcome to Lazada Insider, Future of Commerce 2022 series, and I'm your host Shaz, Senior Manager from Lazada Group Strategy. Post-pandemic, Southeast Asia consumers desire to have the choice to shop however they like, whether in person or online, has reshaped the retail industry. Thus, there is a need for brands and sellers to ensure a seamless multi-channel offerings to remain competitive. And today, we have Richard, Managing Director of Meyer, Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Neo, the Chief Business Officer from Synagie, and Lynn, Business Director of Mentholatum, to share their expertise and knowledge on how brands can excel in the omni-channel shopping trend. Thank you, Richard, Neo, and Lynn, for joining us today. Could you introduce a bit more about yourself?
Great, thanks, Shaz. Yes, as you mentioned, I work for Meyer Corporation, which is a global business that's involved in housewares and with a specific focus on cookware. And we've got operations around the world, but very strong in Australia. Also operations through Singapore, and just busy partnering at the moment with Synagie in some of these areas in Southeast Asia, which is really exciting for us to find opportunities for growth.
How about you, Neo?
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Neo, Chief Business Officer for Omni and C2M in Synagie. And I'm very happy here to have the discussion with two of our close partners and Lazada, number one platform in Southeast Asia. Personally, I believe good brands and products will enhance people's life. And with technological and social changes experienced in my past 20 years in the industries, we see new challenges and at the same time opportunities are created on how these good brands and products can reach consumers. Synagie Omni, being the number one enabler with the motto, "We love commerce," are excited to work with partners to activate and integrate the different channels for true Omni experience, leveraging opportunities and overcoming challenges.
Thanks. And lastly, Lynn, how about you?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks for introducing me and having me on this panel. I'm the Business Director for Mentholatum Singapore. You might know our brands, which are brands like Hada Labo, Agnes, Oxy, Sunplay, our eye drop, of course, and lip balm. And we also have OTC brands like Deep Heat as well as Selsun Anti-Dandruff Shampoo. Well, I myself have been in this FMCG industry for more than 30 years. Actually, it's only in the last 5 years when I'm in with Mentholatum and then partnering with Synagie, right, that really brought us, the company, and myself, right, into the world of on online and e-commerce. But it has been a very exciting last 5 years. Started with small little steps along the way, but I think we are now getting to fly. Hopefully we can fly with our e-commerce partners.
With not one, but three subject matter experts on connecting consumers both online and offline across multiple touchpoints, I'm very sure not only me, but the audience are very interested to hear, how would you foresee this trend will evolve in the next 2 to 3 years?
In terms of some statistics, currently 80% of the shoppers, when they are browsing offline, they actually go online to find out more information. And 50% of them are influenced by what they find out online. And this trend will continue, if not intensify. This is what we know. And this is possible because information explosion, which will continue. Thus, the differentiation is the quality of the information, not the quantity. For example, not to say the damn good things why a product is good, but one key strong selling point to cut the clutter and stand out becomes very critical. Integration across channels, offline and online, will further be enhanced as we go along due to technological advancements. And this will start to create a competitive gaps between brands and products, depending who can activate Omni better based on their available resources.
I think Neo is really hitting on the right track. Skincare, right? One of the things that consumers will always ask, is this product suitable for me? That's always the top 3 questions that they will ask. So how do we answer that question through an offline and online channel? So from the online space, they will look for genuine online reviews and also hopefully very creative word of mouth kind of marketing, right? So it will lead them to look at to not just look at the be aware of the product, but really also truly engage in the products. So these reviews will provide the assurance and the testimonials why the products are suitable for certain skin type and skin condition. But at the same time, right, physical aesthetics of the product, like the texture, the fragrance, right, it's really quite hard to duplicate that online. So what will happen is that they will go down to the store, they smell it and they tag, and now that sampling is back, they can actually touch the product. So that will be the final last deciding factors before they make a purchase. And now these are very much experienced in the offline stores. And so more and more, as Neil mentioned about how technology is becoming more advanced, the integration will become very blurred, and the consumer, it will just be a natural thing to do. Oh, I searched this online. Oh, I'm going to the store. So they're not really differentiating offline or online anymore.
Richard, any additional perspective?
It's really been amazing to see what's happened over the last 2 or 3 years. With COVID, it's accelerated a few trends. Now, the one that it's driven is obviously consumer getting online. We shop online a lot more because the shops have been closed. Retail bricks and mortar stores have often been closed. But what we're starting to see now is a normalization back to the longer term trend. Customers, they are shopping a lot more online, but that acceleration trend has maybe come off a little bit, and it will be continuing to grow from here on. The interesting thing is, from the supplier side, as a vendor, we've seen this massive panic in the industry where people have said, oh, we don't have any infrastructure, we don't have the right skill set, we don't have the right teams in place, we aren't operating online, we better build an online presence. It's been really interesting to see that the acceleration has really been more on the supplier side, and that'll impact the longer term maybe more so than what's happening on the consumer side. But it has showed us the potential, I think, for us to realize, wow, the online market has a huge potential, and it has shown us that definitely, we've got the opportunity to take that growth forward in the future. So, yeah, I think that that having taken this to market now, you talk about multiple online and offline channels, there will definitely be that trend, but we've got to continue. The big word during COVID was companies had to pivot. Everyone was talking about pivoting, right? And that trend from a company perspective is definitely continuing as well.
I think the next thing that we want to know would be, what are the fundamental drivers of consumer choice of shopping channels? Maybe Richard?
Yeah, thanks, Shaz. Actually, what Lynn spoke about earlier was really critical in this space. We used to talk about the online customer and the offline customer. Now we talk the non-line customer. Because as you know, you walk into a shopping center with your phone and you're scanning barcodes and checking pricing and checking reviews. So definitely, wherever we can digitize the experience, that's becoming a big driver for us. Whether it's in-store in bricks and mortar, whether it's, everyone, the QR code now is ubiquitous, right? So wherever you go, you've got to scan a QR code. So we found opportunity to build that into our point of sale material at a store level, at bricks and mortar, such that it enables consumers then to have a digital experience. So I think those key drivers of consumer choice, no matter what the shopping channel is, videos, reviews. Lynn spoke about reviews, having good content when you land on a particular site. That is a key thing. Now, a key driver ultimately is going to be price. So if you don't have a level of differentiation between channels or offerings, if it's available across multiple platforms, it's only going to come down to price. And consumers now are very savvy. They understand what it costs for shipping and freight. They understand if they're building up points for a loyalty program. And that's playing in their mind all the time. Ultimately, price is the key weapon.
Yes, I think price, assortment, we talked about that being very important, no matter which channel that you go to, so whether it's offline or online. But one of the things I think we were observing is how there is nuanced difference when it comes to different demographics. So, for example, if you are when a product goes particularly viral online, and we see that happening a lot in skincare, right? The younger consumers will, because they love to keep up with trends, they will check out the online channels, because they get that data, the information all online, right? So it's quite easy for them to just move on to make their purchases online. And then you have the other group of consumers who are basically bargain hunters, yeah. And then this one span across all different kind of age group, right? So they shop online only because it is easy to look for sales and discounts, right? And then the fact that then they enjoy the convenience of just adding to cart, and then immediately they will be informed of what other vouchers they can utilize and claim. But then on the other hand, right, they also have consumers, right, who still love the enjoyment from physical store shopping. So they will also, but they continue to do their online research, but they will buy the stuff in store. So the channel choices that they make depends on the category that they choose, the kind of who they are, in terms of demographics, because all this will also make a choice. But fundamentally, at the end of the day, will still be about the convenience, the assortment, and price. Yes, price is always still going to be an important factor.
Neil, any additional thing to add?
Okay, maybe I will throw some alternative perspective. I think based on the different drivers, we observe also, I think basically why a consumer shop, probably, if I can split, two broad reasons. One is get the products they want and satisfy their basic need of the product. And the other one is entertainment. Why I point out these two is because the drivers for the first point, shopping, for the basic needs of the product, convenience, speed, less involvement, or a very quick understanding of pricing becomes very critical. It also tends to activate the logical side of mind. But the shopping the shopping behavior that we see in point two, where entertainment takes precedent, consumers want to be more involved, and also tends to have a mix of logical and emotions. Even like price off. Sometimes the purchase is not too logical. We all know it. The things that we buy that we left in the corner. Yes. And also, during this second point of shopping for entertainment, they seek stimulus to satisfy their needs, which also tends to activate more emotional side of the mind. And the reality is some categories and product has a mix of both. Depending on the occasion and also stage of life is used for. I think the key is really understand these drivers and matching the category and activate the channel to leverage these drivers. Like what Richard has mentioned, how can we leverage is the content, the activations, and the price is important. In a nutshell, that's why I find that understanding the drivers is important. And sometimes it depends on how detailed we can get into. And from the understanding, then we need to plan out a strategy, how we can activate the channels so that we hit the drivers. And of course, we drive the conversion that we want.
I think moving on, how does omni-channel differ from just having presence both online and offline? And what critical factors do sellers and brands need to consider when developing an omni-channel strategy?
To my mind, right, to be truly omni-channel, we really need to place the customer at the center of our marketing efforts. Yeah. So the focus is on the needs of this consumer, and the aim is to provide them with hopefully personalized messages or ensuring a seamless and a unified experience. Yeah. So this will allow the consumer to easily access information, from any channels, and which are all connected to one another. So the consumers will actually experience consistency from your brand, from visual styles to the messaging across either your brand website, your social channels, offline store, e-commerce platforms. So whatever the interaction or the channel that is being used, right, the overall experience needs to be consistent and more importantly, relevant to the individual, which requires the customization. So some simple examples of omni-channel, right? Marketing will, for example, including like receiving SMS on promo code while you're shopping in store or browsing, right? Or getting retargeted on Facebook right after you abandon an online shopping cart, or getting retargeted for complimentary products after you make the purchase. So all this really, which requires a lot of, it's very integrated, you have to be very consistent, a lot of data analytics that needs to go on. So really, I feel that the biggest challenge for most sellers and, for a small, medium company like my company here, is really lacking the funding and the resources to invest in the full-blown omni-channel approach. Maybe not something that we have to do overnight, but it's definitely something that needs to be built on. But you need to have the goal in mind, how the final omni-channel approach looks like. And it's really important to be committed, because not only is it expensive to start it, but it's also maintaining it. And it's actually more harmful to start and then abandoning halfway than not to start at all. Right? And so related to this first challenge of funding and resources is really recruiting the right talent, and then within the organization, recruiting the right talent, hiring the right team, or even just upskilling the current team members to bring this approach to life. And in many instances, right, in the first place, we even need to figure out how to get the entire company on board. Company like mine, where most of us come from the FMCG brick and mortar background. How do we get the entire company's buy-in? Because it's going to be a very big shift in the approach, in the attitude, in the whole mindset change. And then after that, then we need to figure out where and how to start. So I feel that these are the two main challenges for most sellers to start doing this omni-channel approach.
I might just add to that as well. I think what Lynn said is right. What I've found, some of our retailers, the bricks and mortar, who also have a presence online, when I've shopped in their stores, they've tried to integrate the experience. So whether they've tried to get me to sign up for a loyalty program or something in the store, which then enables their database digitally, is really good. Other areas that I found really valuable is extending the aisle in store. So walking into a store where I wanted a particular pair of Doc Marten shoes, right? So going into a store where I wanted a specific color, but they had my color but not in my size. So I tried on another pair of shoes in a different color, and then I ordered the ones I wanted online from the store. And that was a great sense for me of this integration of online and offline, and it was good because then I became an online customer of theirs. They did a delivery to my house, the next day from their warehouse, and I had experienced their brand in store. That consumer journey for me was consistent between an online and the bricks and mortar experience, such that I really felt the brand is looking after me and I understand what the brand is all about. So that for me was a really good insight of that, having a presence on an omni-channel platform. So that extension of the aisle in store was really good. Now, as we know, real estate and bricks and mortar is expensive, right? To open up a store in a shopping mall in Singapore, for example, is really expensive. And so how do we then create an environment where customers experience the brand, or touch and feel it, are able to, like Neo was saying earlier about cookware, touch and feel the cookware, understanding, okay, this is the gauge, this is the coating, this is how it feels in my hands, this is how it's going to cook, in such a way that we aren't, spending a lot of money on a big bricks and mortar store. So I think having an omni-channel environment, being able to showcase our product through the showroom, where you can still shop, but it could be off a much smaller footprint of floor space in some of these centers.
Yes, I think maybe I emphasize a bit. I think Omni, I think it differs for just having presence online or offline. The key difference is the integration, and like Richard has mentioned, the seamless experience between online and offline. That's very easy said, but that's seldom done. I mean, you can go out to the stores, you can see what is the message you see for a certain brand in the offline space versus the message you see on online space. Sometimes it deviates. And also one area that we see deviation, which we find it quite a pity, is the fact is, like Richard has mentioned, offline is very expensive because of the margins, the cost to set up a physical store. Online is cheaper. But the reality is, do we need to make offline price cheaper for the consumers? Because by pricing consumer in offline cheaper for the consumers, we might disrupt the pricing structure we have for the market. Yeah. And when the pricing structure is being disrupted, consumers get confused. And what will they do? They will not thank you. You sell me cheaper. They might actually go to another brand. Or they might even lose the understanding of the different price tier that has been set up across the portfolio, which is to me is damaging for the whole overall brand portfolio. I think the very big challenge in large organization is getting different incumbent teams with entrenched mutually competitive mindsets and also KPIs to work together. For smaller organizations and brands, I think the challenge is resources. And resources, I would like to emphasize, sometimes it's really not money, but the bandwidth and the know-how. Because being small, you have so many things on the plate. Sometimes you just don't have the one final step how to integrate the channels. And also sometimes we see that smaller organizations, they might have shorter runway for results. So you cannot reach the final omni vision. You need to cut it into bite size and also key milestones so that the organizations can see the results and they can move the next step and next step. And for smaller organizations or brands, I think the compromise, in the reality is to be selective in the number of channels they can activate. You don't have to go all because there's so many channels now. You don't have to go all. And also, and this after you select the channels that active, you can activate, then integrate the cost or into the overall strategy, and also carefully weighing the benefits so that it can be seen and further investments can be made after the learnings is achieved.
Nice. I think this just brings nicely to the next question. We're talking about online, offline, and how there must be consistency and relevance between online, offline. But then there's also the question of how then can sellers minimize cannibalization among these channels, and instead enable additional channels to add incremental value.
I think we all know channel cannibalization in short term can be very addictive, especially for the team that benefited. This echoes the organization issue that we just now mentioned. But I think how we can overcome it is really, the organizations, everyone has to recognize the fact different channels do serve different consumers. And also they have their strengths. Because offline provides such a good experience, they might be able to sell higher range product or more expensive product in layman terms. And online with the convenience, they may be able to sell the fast moving products better. Organization or sellers need to have the holistic view and manage this carefully and identify the strength and weakness of each channel, and also mirroring, mapping the suitable portfolio for that and flows into the right activations.
So, what sort of changes or integration is required for omni-channel approach with regard to the back end? For example, inventory management, fulfillment, analytics, customer care, etc.
Okay, I think not really back end. The first step is actually not really back end, but I think I also mentioned it before. I think the very important part is strategy, which needs to be very ruthless. In sense, it has to balance brand aspiration for business and also the timeline and resources available. This strategy also has to factor in the nuisance of the categories, which impacts the shopping journey and also the consumer choice. Uh, because once this strategy is set, it has to be communicated well. And after this is set, I think in terms of fulfillment operations, that is not a major issue for us. And another part of this integration is this integration, the behind it is to create a seamless experience is the transfer and sharing of data, and also the team that is using this information and data. If Synagie is doing that, I think within ourselves, the team, we have to also create this data flow. What is being sold online can be learned by the offline team, and what is we get in terms of the data, in terms of offline like scan data, is also communicated also to the online team so that there's a cross sharing. And also when we activate activations that is seamless across the channels.
The last question for this session is more like, what is the last piece of advice you want to leave for our audience? Maybe Richard, you can start us first.
I think for our perspective, what we've seen in certainly in the Australian business, but also in global businesses, is the need to be flexible. And this flexibility, as I mentioned that word pivoting earlier, what we've seen the need for, whether it's our team members who come in and realize that today they're not working on that, they're working in the warehouse or they're working on the customer care, answering a phone call, whether that's a team that needs to be flexible, whether we have to be more flexible around our fulfillment partners, really being flexible and keeping flexibility throughout everything we do. And then encouraging our partners as well to be flexible. If we're moving supply chain requirements around the world and there's a shortage of containers, what are the options there? So really having that ability to pivot is critical. That's one of the big lessons that us as a business have learned through COVID. And then also second to that, is being aware of the trends and really ahead of those trends. So again, during COVID, we saw initially there was a big demand for things like laptops and monitors and desks and musical instruments and activewear, kitchenware, storage, pet accessories. And then quite quickly, as the economy opened up again and people were going back to work or back to, weddings and functions, it shifted across to formal wear and fashion wear again. So to be really ahead of those trends will really help us from a supply chain management perspective, which is really one of our challenges at the moment. I think that to be aware of those trends and being ahead of those trends is probably the key message I would challenge the listeners and the audience to be really across.
How about you, Neil?
I think for me is I think this whole conversation, I think we all see the importance of Omni, because I think some statistics also, there's a 2.5 times chance that a consumer will buy more, 2.5 times more versus a singular channel. And also in terms of retaining this consumer, there's a 90% chance of retaining a consumer well if you do Omni well. So important Omni, very clear. But I think it's like what Lynn has really shared. The faster to start embracing Omni, the better it is, because Omni journey is a journey full of learnings and it's constantly evolving. So the earlier you start, organization start, the more you can learn and reapply, and that's something that I would like to bring to the audience in this show.
And lastly, Lynn?
Okay, I guess, we really need to be promoting and selling anywhere customers buy, right? So the marketing work that we are now doing, right, is beyond just advertising. The thing that we need to think about is how do we bring commerce to these various channels, be it marketplaces, on the social media, messaging apps, and online communities, right? Because they are gearing up for commerce. So we need to go where our target market are already spending their time there. So the challenge for us is really to create a natural purchase path on all these channels. How do we do that, right? So we create our messaging, which are visual styles and communication assets, right? All need to be data-driven so that we can optimize visually on all of these platforms for consistency. And we also know how to better leverage the engagement tools that all these channels provide anyway. So how do we use those to our advantage? So, and really there's no turning back, right? Consumers are all both online and offline, and with evolving needs and looking for innovative experiences all the time. It's really keeping us on our toes. So also echoing to what Neil had said earlier, right? I think at the end of the day, start small, learn to learn quickly and unlearn anything that doesn't work. Be curious, be brave, and then hire the right people to help you with the transformation.
So really appreciate and thank you, Richard, Neil, and Lynn for sharing your knowledge and expertise on this topic. I've definitely learned a lot. I hope the audience also, have picked up a few tips and insights that you guys have shared. And for the audience, we hope you enjoy this episode and thank you.
This is Lazada Insider. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure you click follow and subscribe so you don't miss our latest insights and expert interviews. Thanks again for joining us. Until next time, take care.